Saludos a toda la afición de la lucha libre. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de lucha libre online. Y tengo el enorme honor de presentarles a nuestro invitado en la tarde de hoy. Él es ex campeón mundial en pareja de la WWE, 6 veces campeón hardcore de la WWE, ex campeón europeo de la WWE, de igual manera la leyenda Al Snow. Mr. Snow, how are you doing today, sir?
Hola, I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you for taking part of your time with to share a little bit of time with us. I know you are a busy man with a busy schedule, and I have 3 interesting questions to start this interview. What does everybody want? What does everybody need? And what does everybody love? No, just kidding, man. It's an amazing gimmick. How is Head these days?
They're doing very well. They probably are outside right now, you know, getting some sun this summer. And with being cooped up in the house with COVID-19, you know, any chance they get to where they can get out and about, they're taking it. So.
The important thing is that they're doing well. Mr. Snow, I wanted to start this interview with an interesting question. You've been a man that's been in this industry as an active pro wrestler since 1982.
Yes.
You've been here for a while, and you had the opportunity to wrestle for Smoky Mountain Wrestling with Jim Cornette, ECW with Paul Heyman, WWE/WWF with Vince McMahon, and TNA's version with Dixie Carter. What's the biggest difference, in your opinion, among these 4 promoters?
Well, the biggest difference would just be in vision and personal style, and that's nothing new. When professional wrestling in the United States was regional, you know, there were different regional territories, offices that you would go to wrestle in. And in one area, let's say in WWF in the Northeast, that was more of a big man territory. It was a little slower paced. The guys were, you know, they were called grunts and groaners. They'd grab a hold and stay in a static position for a period of time. If you went into the Southeast, the wrestlers were a little bit smaller. They were faster. The pace of the action was quicker. If you went into Memphis, there was more brawling, more blood. If you went into Detroit, there were more blood matches, more gimmick type characters. If you were to go, you know, to another company, it would be slightly different because it was all based upon the individual promoter or booker at that time, their particular style and vision in the direction that they produced the talent.
So that's a huge difference between basically everything, because pro wrestling evolved in such a way since they made your debut in 1982 versus 2020. Where do you see, I mean, I don't know if you are still watching the pro wrestling industry and their product currently, but if you haven't watched that part, the ratings are not doing so well. Not many people are interested in watching pro wrestling as it is, or sports entertainment in 2020. Why do you think this is happening?
Well, because of the incredible challenge that televised professional wrestling faces right now, and that is that they don't have an audience, live audience, an audience that's there to interact and react. And even when wrestling was produced in very small studio type settings, there has always been that part of the equation, which was the audience. And they are an essential factor in the dynamic that creates professional wrestling. You have the performers in the ring, but you need that direct reaction and interaction from that audience to truly create those emotional moments and create that drama that makes and motivates a person to want to watch it on television. It's no different. Wrestling business, the entertainment business as a whole, very similar. The wrestling business is very similar to the music business. You can enjoy and appreciate a person's ability to sing, but if you watch them sing and perform in front of a live audience and watch the audience react and interact with the singer as they're performing, it takes it to a whole different level. And professional wrestling, it's very much the same thing. The other problem lies in what you said, and the fact that you said that pro wrestling has evolved. That it has. It's evolved. It's grown, and unfortunately, it's changed. And what I mean by that is that for, quite honestly, an entire century, at least here in the United States, for over a century, people have been known and have been aware that professional wrestling is predetermined. They continued to watch it and enjoy it and pay by the thousands to see it, because they were able to have the performers sell them what they wanted to buy, which was the belief that it wasn't predetermined, that it was actually, there was consequence, gravity to the win and loss. The performers these days, in my opinion, have lost touch with that and have convinced themselves that wrestling business has changed, that we're no longer selling the outcome. We're selling what we do. We're not selling why we do it. Or that a performer focuses on the what they do, unless they focus on the who they are and the why they do it, the less an audience will watch. And without that other integral part of the formula of an actual live audience in the building when the performance takes place, you lose that magic that motivates someone at home to want to still be a part of it.
And I completely agree with you in that point of view, because once the curtain fell down, everything changed. People could see what was happening behind. And at this point, not many pro wrestlers care about protecting the magic of this industry. They don't matter spoiling what's going to happen to their families or to their friends. And they start telling everyone, and then the reporters get the information. And basically everyone knows the program from here to 4 to 6 months, and that kills the interest in those stories. But you were part of a pretty particular era, which was the Attitude Era. You had many gimmicks during your career, but there was one that particularly caught the eye of the people, and you were really over in every company you were, and that's the gimmick with Head. Who came with the idea of Head, and why did it happen?
I created the Head gimmick in ECW. Quite honestly, it was the most important thing that a wrestler can do, is to create their own voice, to create their persona that allows you and all the other fans to be able to describe that performer a sentence or less. Say beer drinking, ass kicking redneck flips off his boss. You know exactly who I'm talking about. And you know who he is, and you know what he stands for, and you know what he'll do to win, and you know what he'll do not to lose. Just in those words. So when I was able to create the Head, born, quite honestly, out of my own real frustration and my own bad attitude, that I kept pointing the finger at everybody else instead of myself and taking responsibility. Once I had done that, it allowed an audience to be able to turn to their friends and family and go, hey, you got to watch the show. There's this crazy guy. He talks to a head. We never know what he's going to do. He's out of his mind. And if you were to poll people and ask them, hey, do you honestly think this guy's legitimately insane? 9 out of 10 people would have told you that, yeah, he is completely out of his mind, and I don't know why they're allowing him in the ring to perform. And if that's the essential difference, is if they can believe in who you are, they'll believe in anything you do. And no matter how ridiculous It is. And let's be honest. Think of all the things that I've done on television over the years and how much time I was on television. I was on television Sunday night Heat, Monday night Raw, Tuesday night SmackDown, every single week for years. And as a result, they had me do some of the most ridiculous stuff, but people believed it and accepted it because they genuinely thought I was insane. And that was key, was, was being able to perform that and have it connect with people because it was real voice, voicing my aggravation and frustration and things. And then it came through and people felt that it was real and they connected to it. And thank God, thank goodness thank God for the grace that he gave it and a plastic head, because without it, my career would have probably ran its course a long time ago.
So it's pretty ironic because it was this gimmick which changed your career. You were as in TV program, as you mentioned, every single week for years. You were probably one of the most active guys in television programs in the whole roster at that point. But you were a part of a particular storyline that caught my eye when I was a kid, and it was the Pepper storyline. For the new fans out there, I'm going to explain that in Spanish to them. Hubo un momento dado en donde Al Snow fue parte de una historia bastante interesante que hoy resultaría muy controversial, y fue la historia del perrito Pepper, en donde Big Boss Man, que en paz descanse, agarró el perro de Al Snow, lo secuestró, porque estaba molesto por unas situaciones que no vienen al caso, y de repente llegaron a este hotel en donde Al Snow estaba sentado y le ofreció cena a Al Snow, Al se la come, y luego le dice que le acaba de dar de comer a su perro. Esto terminó una lucha increíble. Mr. Snow, you were, as I mentioned, part of that incredible storyline. You sit down at that hotel. Big Bossman gave you that amazing dinner. Nobody knew what it was, and it was Pepper. That match, that situation ended in a pretty particular match. We watched the Kennel of Hell match. It was technically a Hell in a Cell match / steel cage match surrounded by dogs. It was a pretty risky match. Regarding our generation today, people maybe are way softer and get easily offended compared to the previous generations. Do you think that story would have worked in 2020 with this generation? And if so, in case Vince and the crew decided to shoot the match, what would be the crowd reaction, the Gen Z crowd reaction?
Yeah, I think the story would still work. Please understand, and I've said this in a couple of other interviews, and I'm not shifting responsibility or anything, but the biggest issue that we had was that they didn't use trained animals. For something like that, where the crux of the entire story is built around the use of, animals, they need to be very highly trained animals. And, the final match, the animals were just, they had went and got a list of owners of Weilers from a local veterinarian clinic in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we had months building the focal point about the dogs, and then we couldn't use the dogs within the match at all. It was not good. But do I think that the story would work, and would people be offended now? Yes, the story would work. There were people that were offended back then. The office got lots of, letters and phone calls from animal rights groups complaining about it, and in that type of thing. And people are entitled to their opinions. That doesn't bother me, and but the story would still work. It would, I had a relationship that I cared for the dog. The dog got kidnapped. The villain, feeds me my own dog. Well, then of course, people are going to want to see me, face that villain and get some justice. to beat, and those are universal. They'll always work, you know. And you know, for people out there listening, um, and this just applied to me, but it applies in life, because you're all, you know, I'm not saying you're soft, but please understand that I'm responsible for what I say. I am in no way, shape, or form responsible for how you interpret that or how you understand it. And this is a fact of life, and this is a little life advice for everyone listening. No one can make you feel anything. No one can make you angry. No one can make you sad. No one can make you happy. People will do behavior or make statements, and then you get to choose how you feel about them. You can actually choose not to be offended. It's really simple. And if you are offended, then you've made the decision to be offended. So take control of your life. Don't be a victim. Actually be responsible for yourself.
That's a pretty great advice, sir. You were part of some incredible and memorable matches, as we were mentioning before, and you faced huge names at one point of your career. You faced The Undertaker, The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Big Van Vader, Chris Benoit, Taz, Sabu, among many, many other names. But which was the match that, while being inside the square circle, changed your perspective about pro wrestling, and why?
Uh, Probably there was no one singular match that changed that perspective. It was probably more my own experience, and when I started to try to train and teach other younger wrestlers, that I started having epiphanies, and then, oh, the light bulb goes on. Oh, that's where I made that mistake. Oh, I was actually the one that was responsible for that. Oh, you know what I mean? The more that I taught, the more it allowed me to understand my own failings and my own mistakes. And then in turn to be able to communicate that to prospective talent and try to allow them to learn from my experience and not make those same mistakes.
You made a huge transition inside your career. You went from being an active pro wrestler for many decades to go be a trainer, a head trainer of Tough Enough at that point, and you then opened your school, which is also known Wrestling Academy. Um, how was that transition for you, and what's the biggest achievement you've made, or you feel you've made with your Pro Wrestling Academy?
Um, well, the transition wasn't very difficult, because I get to live vicariously through my students, through my trainees, and when they succeed, I succeed. Um, you know, that's the truth. I was brought into professional wrestling when, at a time, it was very much like organized crime, like the mob, um, and we had definitive rules of conduct and etiquette, and one of those was that whoever trained you was directly responsible for you. They were held accountable. That's why there weren't that many people that were allowed into the wrestling business, that were not indoctrinated or broken into it, because there weren't very many wrestlers that wanted to be held accountable for someone else's mistakes. So I still carry that kind of idea with me. Uh, that's where we get the term, you know, and on Tough Enough, I would refer to them as my kids. It was not like I was their father. It was because that's a wrestling term. Like, I still, at the age that I am, the person who brought me in, I'm his kid, meaning he's responsible for me. And I take great pride in that. And, because of the fact that I feel held personally accountable for each and every one that I train, I go to great lengths to try to over prepare my trainees as much as possible, so that when they enter the wrestling world, they have the best chance to take advantage of any and all opportunities that come their way. Um, with the Al Snow Wrestling Academy and with the purchase of OVW. You know, OVW was the WWE developmental for years. We have alumni from OVW that I personally trained that, you know, went on to be, you know, huge stars in wrestling and have, you know, been on the main roster with WWE, have been main events of WrestleMania, and with the Al Snow Wrestling Academy, I continue to try to, you know, keep that lineage alive. Here in the United States, OVW and ASWA is the only actually accredited trade school for professional wrestling, sports entertainment, and broadcasting. So we have a 2-year program here where people, young men and women, can come and not just learn how to wrestle in the, they can learn how to operate a camera, do lighting, sound, producing, live event management, business management, editing, all of these different aspects. They can learn skills because it's not a matter of if their careers end inside the ring, it's when. And the other thing is that I have a network of international schools around the world. I have several in the UK. I have one in Denmark, Romania, Hungary. There are 2 in South America and Chile, one in Santiago and one in Concepcion. And I'm starting to create a network of national schools here in the United States as well. We, you know, starting to create affiliate schools. They, you know, all follow a particular syllabus of training that I require them to follow, thus ensuring that people are taught the right way from the ground up, and again, so that they can maximize their chances at any and all opportunities that are presented to them. And here in OVW, we produce our, we give students an opportunity that they get nowhere else, and that is we actually produce a live television show that's broadcast regionally on our local network, WBA Channel 21. It's a local television network. And then we also produce that show and air it nationally on the YT8 network. We're in 44 million homes across the United States. And now we've just signed a deal with a Film Volt, which is an international television distributor. And we have our own Roku channel. We're on Amazon Fire, several other platforms, and we're 21 different countries as of right now. So, you know, along with YouTube, so people could find our show and they can watch it every single week. We're at nearly 1,200 consecutive episodes of television. Only Raw has more episodes of television than we do. We've actually beat SmackDown by 1 week. We got to our 1,000th episode just before they got to theirs. So
that's pretty huge, because before there was an NXT, there was OVW, as you mentioned, and the lineage and the prestige in that brand that now you're the owner of can motivate basically every single student around the world. Mr. Snow, where can pro wrestlers can contact you in case they want to enter your pro wrestling academy?
Sure. Well, they can either go to aswa.live and they can find out all the information they would like on the school. We have the trades portion, and then we just the rest option. And then if they have any curiosity or interest in OVW, they can go to ovwrestling.com, and they can find out all the information they want there. If they want to, we have our own streaming service, much like the WWE Network. We have ovwrestlingnetwork.com. It's $4.99 a month. If you sign up, you get a month free. And we have a whole library of literally thousands of hours of television there. And And if anybody wants to follow me on social media, I'm at the Real Al Snow on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter. You know, and always doing big things. We just had a conversation about touring internationally, about taking OVW over to the UK next year and having events there. And we're looking to go into Europe and around the rest of the world as well.
So it's OVW, it's ovwrestling.com, as you mentioned, just for $4.90 a month. First month is free for the fans that want to try.
The streaming network is ovwrestlingnetwork.com. If the website for OVW is ovwrestling.com. And the website for the school is aswa.live.
Perfect. I'm going to make sure this is going to appear in the description and in the comments. Mr. Snow, thank you so much for the opportunity and for your time. Last but not least, what message can you send to all the people out there that are looking at you right now that maybe want to try enter inside the pro wrestling industry, but they don't know how to start, where to start? What message can you send to them?
First and foremost, if you want to do anything, you can. If you truly want something bad enough, you will find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. Chase your dreams. Go after them. And if you do it with passion. Don't hold back. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. If you want to live a life that others don't live, you have to be willing to do things that others don't do. So get out there, make sure you do your homework, make sure that whomever ends up training you for professional wrestling doesn't just have information, but has real knowledge. Please understand, in order to have real knowledge, they have to have both information and experience. So if you want to, your end goal is to be in WWE, find someone who has been in WWE and has that experience so that they can give you the right instruction and give you the lessons that you need to learn so that you can take advantage of an opportunity that you get for such a platform. If you want to go overseas and wrestle for a living, find someone who has that experience of traveling around the world and wrestling for a living. Do not waste your time going and getting trained by people that have never been anywhere or done anything because they have no real experience or knowledge that they can pass on to you to help you to succeed. It's no different if you go to college and you're going or university for accounting, and the professor of your accounting class has never worked anywhere as an accountant. He's not going to have the information knowledge to be able to teach you what the skills you need to be able to be successful as an accountant. And the same applies to professional wrestling.
Perfect, sir. That's amazing advice to all the pro wrestlers specifically out there that are giving it a try, maybe local, as for example, Chile. There are a lot of wrestlers I know down there that can go to the correct school, but maybe they don't have the opportunity or the knowledge that the school was there. So that's a huge point. Mr. Snow, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best of lucks to you, OVW, and the Alex Snow Wrestling Academy, sir.
Thank you very much.